Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It is Tuesday, which means Mikey is back and it's Premier League predictions time. Mikey, December is carnage. We're both off to Watford to watch Ipswich tonight. Then there's Champions League in the way. So can we just get our excuses in early that the landscape may have changed slightly by the time we do get to round 17 this weekend?
Yeah, so many games, Ben, so many injuries. But we showed our dedication to this job last week, didn't we, Ben? We covered 3 Premier League matches between us, and we saw some fantastic games as well.
We did, yes. And Luton gave Arsenal and Man City a right good going, but got 0 points in the end. I was just going to say, dedication is what you need if you want to be a record breaker, in the words of Roy Castle. I've got no seg for Nottingham Forest versus Tottenham being record breakers. Have we got a play for both for that? Colin Calderwood? No, he managed.
Brennan Johnson, Ben.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. It's not like we both know his dad or anything, is it? There we go. Anyway, Nottingham Forest versus Spurs. What do you reckon, Mikey? Steve Cooper under huge pressure still. We say that every week. And Spurs back to winning ways in midweek.
Yeah, so Forest winless in 5, as you say, but got a point away at Wolves last time out, which means they're now 5 points ahead of the relegation places. They went to the 5 at the back against Wolves. Willy Bolly came back into the defence and Chet Kouyaté came into the midfield. So a really solid looking team, and they'll need to be really, really solid against Spurs. I guess the Forest fans are going to really get behind the team just to show the owner that they're behind Steve Cooper. Spurs have just recovered from a 5-game winless run of their own after a hugely uplifting 4-1 win over Newcastle. Richarlison scored his first 2 goals of the season, and he's a different animal when he's confident. I think there's going to be goals in this game, as it's Spurs. I'm going to go for Forest 2, Spurs 3, and a fantastic start to the weekend.
Fantastic start to the predictions. Can I do some translation? When Mikey says solid, he means really defensive, yeah? And Mr. Marianakis is crazy, so I don't know whether he'll listen to his fans or not. I feel some loyalty to Forest as they're dearly departed, but I've got to back Spurs, Mikey. I'll go both teams to score. I'll go for the more sensible one, even though I prefer yours. I will go Nottingham Forest 1, Spurs 2, and we will move on to Bournemouth versus informed Bournemouth versus Luton.
Yeah, the battle of the tight little grounds. Since we last spoke, Ben, Bournemouth have impressively won. Since we last spoke, Bournemouth have impressively won at both Palace and Manchester United and have won 5 of their last 7 matches. That comes after Andoni Iraola looked like he was clueless, Ben, and it was never going to work at Bournemouth. But look at him now, not even in the relegation picture anymore. Bournemouth look like they're going to be safe. They'll really fancy their chances of another win here at home. Luton, obviously, you watched them, Ben. They battled so hard against Arsenal and Man City, but ultimately lost both. Their sheer spirit and competitiveness will give them heart, but they must start picking up results. And this is one that they'd have circled as one that they need to win at the Kenny. The good news is for Luton, I don't often get Bournemouth predictions right. I'm going for a 2-1 win to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think you're right. If this was at the Kenny, I'd have more. I don't know. I'd have more confidence for Luton. I think that was a bit of a factor in closing the gap between. See, it's Arsenal and Man City, and let's be fair, Luton got up with a tiny budget, and we've done all this to death. I think they can get something, can't they? I know Bournemouth are in such good form, but let's assume that Luton can cobble together, like you say, some of the confidence, even though you would make Bournemouth favourites. So I'll go for a 1-1, more out of hope than expectation, I think. And, right, here we go. Chelsea versus Sheffield United. Come on, the Blades. Can we get you to predict the Blades win in this one?
I'm not sure you can, but you just never know. Chris Wilder, he looked like he had his mojo back at the weekend, didn't he, Ben? Did you see his celebrations when Sheffield United scored? We didn't see the back 3. It was just a flat back 4 for Sheffield United in that game. Chelsea, meanwhile, continued to say one step forward and then 2 steps back. They had all of the ball against Everton at the weekend, but failed to score. And Reece James went off injured again. And they're so wasteful in front of goal, Ben, which will give Sheffield United some hope. But a brilliant start, as we said, for Wilder. Victory over Brentford, making that picture at the bottom slightly less troubling. James McAtee was the match winner. If Wilder can get the best out of him, then Sheffield United have half a chance. But with Chelsea badly needing a win, I predict that they'll get it. I think Sheffield United will score, but I think Chelsea are going to score 3. I'm going to go Sheffield United 1, Chelsea 3.
If you're not going to do it, well, I think I might.
Go on, Ben.
Did they win there once when they were good, Sheffield United? I can't remember. Maybe they didn't. Maybe.
I've checked this one, Ben. The last time Sheffield United beat Chelsea at home was back in 1992, and Brian Deane scored the winner.
Wow. Can I do it? Shall I just go for a draw then? We'll sit on this and we'll go for a draw. No, come on. Let's be bold. Chelsea 0, Sheffield United 1. Absolute carnage is what we're going to go for. And we're going to move on to Man City versus Crystal Palace. I'm going to say 2 things. One is an objective fact and one is a lie. Man City are rubbish and Crystal Palace always beat Man City. There we go.
I think this one, Ben, looks like the easiest game of the week to call, with Man City needing to keep pace with the leaders and Palace suffering a really bad injury crisis. As you say, Palace have caused problems for Pep Guardiola before at the Etihad. They've won there twice in recent seasons. Who can forget that incredible 35-yard volley by Andros Townsend? A huge upset that was. And Roy Hodgson was in the Palace dugout that day. And Erling Haaland might not be fit, Ben. I seem to find him really difficult to call. But he didn't play at Luton. And word on the street is he's not going to play in the Champions League this week. Who knows? He might not play against Palace either. I think Palace are going to be overrun in midfield, though. No Decore or Lerma. Not sure Will Hughes has the physicality to cope with that Man City attack from midfield. And I'm going to go Manchester City 5, Crystal Palace 0.
So unnecessary. You've turned on Palace, haven't you? Normally all over them. Well, you've put me right off another silly prediction. So I think I'll go Man City. I can't go 5-0. Roy the boy won't have him scoring 5, surely, will he? I'll go 3-0 then. Man City 3, Crystal Palace 0. And this game makes me think of Kevin Keegan, which makes me smile immediately. Newcastle versus Fulham, Mikey.
Yeah, injuries look like they've finally caught up on Newcastle. After beating Chelsea and Manchester United, they followed that with defeats against Everton and Spurs. I think Kieran Trippier is missing for this one. Harvey Barnes is in contention to make the squad. I don't expect him to start. Callum Wilson is back. He played at the weekend for Newcastle, but they're struggling. They do have a good record against Fulham, winning 5 of their last 6 matches against them, and they're back at home where they've won 6 in a row, Ben, at St James's Park. Fulham, though, are fresh from scoring 10 goals without conceding last week. They're now in the top half somehow, and Raul Jimenez is looking reborn. Are you going to go for a Fulham win in this one, Ben? Because I'm going with Newcastle 2-1.
All I'm thinking of is, do you remember in the Championship when Fulham had Wilson and Mitrovic and Marco Silva? There was a week, I'll probably get the numbers slightly wrong. I think they scored 19 goals in 3 games. I think they won 7-0, 6-1 or 6-0, and then 6-2 against Bristol City in the space of a week. So this is not foreign to Fulham, banging in the goals. So I will go for more high-scoring action, and I'll go for the Desmond. So I'll go 2-2. But when they get in a rhythm, a Marco Silva team, they're lovely and attacking. Now, you might see a YouTuber with millions of subscribers and views a week driving a Bentley. It's a bit more modest, I have to say, when you're covering the Championship. So if you can find a few quid each month to support over on Patreon or by hitting the join button here, you are making the world of difference for myself, Shaylee, and Enid. And lovely and attacking probably won't be what Sean Dyche's tactics, are going to be going back to. We're not mocking Sean Dyche because Everton are in fine form. 3 wins in a row, 4 wins in 5. And surely he's leaving with 3 points from Turf Moor, isn't he?
Well, it definitely looks like that if you look at the form book. I think will there be a mix of Everton and Burnley fans in the Royal Dyche before the game? I think that one is a designated home pub. But Burnley will be circling this game as one that they really need to win, with trickier games on the horizon. A 1-1 draw at Brighton was a decent result.
You might see a
ensured they
YouTuber
didn't
with
end the
millions of
weekend
subscribers
bottom,
and views a week
Sheffield United
driving
winning,
a Bentley.
and they can move
it's a bit
back
more
within
modest,
a
I
point
have to say, when you're covering the
Everton
Championship.
with a
so
win.
if you can find
The Toffees
a
are
few
absolutely
quid each
flying.
month
4
to
wins
over
in
on
5.
Patreon or
They'd
by
be
hitting the
breathing down the
join
necks of
button
the
here,
European
you are
places
making the world
if it
of
wasn't for
difference
that
myself,
10-point deduction.
Shaylee, and England.
I'm struggling a little bit with this one. I've gone with a 2-2 draw, and I fully expect one of Dwight McNeil or James Tarkowski to score for Everton. I expect Sean Dyche will get a good reaction from the home crowd in this one.
Well, he damn well should do after what he did for that club over 10 years. But you never know with football fans. No, that's not a dig at you Burnley fans there. Look, it's Sean Dyche. It's a manager going back to his old club. It's Burnley 0, Everton 1. I wrote it down before you even said anything, and I am sticking to that. Arsenal versus Brighton, which could be the Danny Welbeck derby or the... No, Trossard went to... Trossard go to Liverpool? No, McAllister went to Liverpool. It's a Trossard derby.
Yeah,
there you go.
We could do Trossard derby, yeah.
Arsenal, Brighton. Give me your weekly Brighton to win prediction then, Mikey. Good luck doing it in this game.
Yeah, you're not getting it this time. Arsenal will be desperate to bounce back from their defeat at Villa last week, where they struggled with the defensive intensity of Unai Emery's side. They just held them at an arm's length, Villa. It was quite impressive, really. Brighton seems to like playing at the Emirates, though. They've won on each of their last 3 visits in all competitions there. And for all their success in Europe this season, they've only won 2 of their last 10 league matches. That's despite me backing them to win every single week, Ben. Like many of the clubs around them, they've got lots of injuries to big players. And the only one who might return this week is our old friend, Adam Webster. This should be a really good watch. Unfortunately, it's not on the telly in the UK. I'm backing Arsenal to win this one. I think there's going to be goals again. I'm predicting loads of goals this week. I'm going Arsenal 3, Brighton 2.
Magnificent. Adam Webster, what a player, hey. So my takeaway from watching Arsenal, I said this to you already, but watching lots of Championship football, it's just lovely watching Odegaard and Rice, just the kind of smoothness of those Premier League players. But yeah, they got away with one at Luton, didn't they? But you can see that they're probably more suited to playing Brighton at home than they are playing Luton away, which is probably safe for literally 90 of the teams in the entire pyramid. I've got to back Arsenal. I don't think Brighton will score, so let's go Arsenal 2, Brighton 0, and you've got a distinct advantage on this one because you've seen Villa in the last week. Brentford, Villa, Mikey.
Yeah, Brentford having a bit of a sticky patch, just 1 win in 5, fell to scoring 3 of those matches, and they're obviously missing Brian Burmo, who's such an important player for them. Villa, meanwhile, are absolutely flying, especially at home, and are just 2 points behind Liverpool at the top. If there's some crazy results this weekend, Ben, then Villa could end the weekend top. They're a team full of confidence. They work so hard for each other and can play at a really high tempo. They don't need the ball. Despite that form, I expect Thomas Frank to make life really difficult for Villa, and I think he's going to go pretty defensive in this one. I think Villa will find that difficult playing against a low block, and for that reason, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. Wow.
I was going to do exactly the same thing there. I think they'll set up specifically. I think if this was at Villa Park, we'd all be on a Villa win. So I was going to go 1-1 and Brentford to get something. So I'm going to flip the script and go tactically, try and beat you. So I will go for the Villa win now. You've gone for the draw. Let's go for a Villa 1-0. But I'd be
Ollie Watkins.
Get it in there. Yeah. I'd be more inclined to go for your result, but you got that one covered. Right, West Ham versus Wolves. What's that centre half called that's played for everyone? Dawson, Derby.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do this for every single prediction now, aren't we?
Oh,
West
don't, it
West
gets
Ham
so
fans.
boring.
West Ham
Paul
fans
Ince
were
is the next answer, yeah.
yeah. I'm going to have to think of another one now. West Ham fans were pretty unhappy with every single aspect of their 5-0 defeat at Fulham, especially the West Ham fans on that boat trip that got stuck under Hammersmith Bridge. Ben, I'm not sure if you saw that. Those West
I
Ham
did
fans.
not know about this. Tell me more.
They basically they did the classic rent a boat to go to Craven Cottage along the River Thames, and yeah, I don't know what's happened, but it's ended up getting caught underneath Hammersmith Bridge. Obviously, the West Ham fans just saying I'm forever blowing bubbles when it was stuck. West Ham set up pretty defensively, but have only had one clean sheet all season. And I think it's a difficult one for West Ham fans at the moment because David Moyes keeps getting all of these fantastic results and they've done so well in Europe. But when you're not winning matches playing that style of football, it's pretty boring and hard to get up for. And I think West Ham fans are struggling with it at times. They're pretty reliant on getting accurate crosses into the box. That's their main route forward. So they'll hope to have Mikel Antonio back fit for this one. Wolves, meanwhile, were probably a bit disappointed to only take a point from their game against Forest. Gary O'Neill knows that West Ham fans can soon turn on their team if you make a fast start against them. So that's exactly what he'll be trying to do. Wolves commit a lot of fouls, so I fancy there'll be quite a few cars in this one. I think this is going to be feisty, and I think Wolves are going to win this battle. I'm going 2-1 to Wolves.
It's a curveball. I absolutely love it. By the way, Mikey didn't say his name, but he was talking about Mick McCarthy about 90 seconds ago when he was talking about playing pragmatic football and not winning. You kind of turned me a little bit, but I'm strongly behind West Ham on this one. I know you got the European thing again, but I think I'll go for the clean sheet and the win. Let's go for a classic Moyes 1-0. And let's move on to not even just the biggest game of the weekend, one of the biggest games in world football, Liverpool versus Manchester United. Have you got another player other than Paul Ince?
Well, I've previewed this one for the Premier League preview show alongside Michael Owen, who obviously played for both clubs, but he's a lot more fond of Liverpool. Let's put it that way. He really isn't having Manchester United at the moment at all. And no, when we sat down to do the interview, there was no apples and there was no bin in the corner of the room. There was none of that going on. Liverpool famously won this.
Has he been on the Jake Humphreys podcast? He should definitely go on there if he hasn't.
He's made for it, isn't he? They famously won this fixture 7-0 last season, Liverpool, and United still appear to be in a bit of a mess. Liverpool have already won their Europa League group, so the European football this week doesn't really matter too much. They're going to be able to rest and rotate in Belgium this week, whereas United have their must-win game against Bayern Munich, which is going to take a lot out of them, you'd think, whatever the outcome. They haven't won any of their 17 matches. This is a crazy record for Manchester United. Away from home, Ben, they haven't won any of their last 17 matches against teams in the top 9 in the Premier League. And Bruno Fernandes is suspended for this trip to Anfield. So it's not looking good for Manchester United. I expect that Liverpool will blow away Manchester United once again, and I'm going for a 4-1 home win.
Well, I mean, this is potentially likely to be the second time this weekend a glorious grudge match is won by the home team. Fingers crossed. 4-1 sounds quite likely, actually. So let's take away a goal from each team. But yeah, you can just imagine all week they're going to be like, right, we've got them exactly where we want them. Go and do the business. I don't think it can be an absolute walloping like it was last year. I think there'll be too much PTSD to kind of warn off that. But I will go Liverpool 3, Man United 0. Right, we need your help in the comments to adjudicate this then, because last week was kind of a draw. I got 5 outcomes correct. So I get 5 points. But Mikey got 2 outcomes and a correct result. So he also gets 5 points. I don't know. I don't want to throw myself under the bus here, Mikey. But if I was you, I'd be saying that you should take the win. You know, like the away goals rule or whatever, which is stupid, but it's funny. I would be saying you should take the win. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I totally agree, Ben. I think I absolutely should take the win.
So that is now.
Are we allowed draws? Like, is that a thing on YouTube? No.
No, absolutely not. It needs to be completely binary and extreme in every way. So I'm going to give you the win, but this will come back to bite you because there will be a time where you do really, really well, and I get 7 outcomes, and I just get 2 results bang on, and I'll be
right into the Premier League as and when that happens, Ben.
Be my guest because we've made the rules now. You're not going to win. Get involved in the comments. See if you can do any better than myself and Mikey. And remember, what did Chris Evans used to say? He used to say, "Don't phone. It's just for fun." We're not going to phone anyway, but it is definitely just for fun, Mikey. People do tend to take this rather seriously, and it's just a interesting way of previewing the weekend. Do you have any games this weekend, Premier League, Mikey, or is it all Ipswich?
It's just Ipswich Norwich for me, Ben. That is more than enough football for anyone this weekend.
Yeah, that will likely make my head explode. I'm kind of pleased. I know this is not an Ipswich podcast. There'll be plenty of that this week. Don't worry, on our various platforms that Mikey and I are on. But kind of pleased it's a 3-game week because you don't really start thinking about it until after tonight. And then the sticky feeling will begin. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Premier League predictions for another week. Once again, get involved in the comments with your predictions. And Mikey, we will see you next week.